Recording started. Javier, thank you for joining us. I'm Todd Schroth with Agents Who Win and eXp Realty. I wanted to just bring the show to you guys today to talk about Javier and his investments that he's making in the Airbnb market. If you want to follow us, go to Facebook, go to Agents Who Win. Also on YouTube, you can see us live there. Like us, follow, subscribe, do all those good things so you can check out this episode and many others that we are going to be recording. Javier, thanks for joining us today. Give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me, Todd.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to collaborate with you and give value for your agents. A little bit back me is you've been in real estate, selling real estate for about 6 years. Been in the Airbnb game for about 5. And when I first started selling real estate, I actually got in full time, 100%. I had about $16,000 saved. I jumped in from a 80-hour a week job. I wasn't even making $1,000 a week. And when I jumped in to selling real estate, it was actually Exit Realty Central, Gil Ramos' office about 5 years ago. And when I first jumped in, I really noticed that it's a very transactional business. So I knew that me being in Orlando, I was always thinking to me, and this was before when I first moved to Orlando, because I'm originally born and raised in Miami. When I first moved to Orlando, I was like, how can I capitalize on all the revenue that's coming through Orlando market with the tourism that come here? We're seeing, upwards of, roughly 75 million tourists that come here per year. Obviously, that's not right now with everything that's going on, but we're seeing so much tourism revenue coming through Orlando. And I used to always think, like, how can I capitalize on, some of this revenue? So I started selling real estate, did transaction here or there, had to wait 30 to 45 days for commissions. And at the time I was had a partner, and my partner was actually doing Airbnb, and he did one. So I kind of got to see, I was like, all right, well, this looks like it's working for him. He's paying all his mortgage. He's pocketing some money. He's living for free. And this is one property he was living at, right? Because he did a conversion at that
I remember
property.
that.
Yeah, he did a conversion of his property. And once he did that conversion, he was paying for his whole mortgage. He's cash flowing. I was like, okay. So once I seen that one property he's doing, I was like, wow, this is really working for him. Literally a few months later, he did another one. I'm like, all right, well, I gotta really, really like look into this, right? He did another one. And so what happened is I had an investor come across my desk at the time. He was an investor out of China. He said, hey man, I want to buy a long-term investment property. Can you find me one? And I actually knew it was crazy because I swear like everything aligned perfectly. When he called me up and said, hey man, do you have any long-term properties that you can get me in possibly, for a long-term rental? I was like, I got the perfect property. It was a 3-2 and it had a mother-in-law suite in the back, right? So it produced 2 incomes.
Nice.
And so I was like, hey man, instead of going long-term, let's go short-term. Because this is a property that was in the Central Florida, in the Orlando market. I said, so instead of going long-term, let's go short-term with the property. He's like, hey man, you do whatever you want to do. I'll give you the green light. Just make me money, right? And that was pretty much the investor and trust me already, right? So he trusts me, and what I told him to do, he was going to do, and that's pretty much for all of our customers. They know, they trust us. They seek our guidance. They seek our advice, on anything we tell them, right? So he's like, hey man, go ahead and throw it on Airbnb. So it was really cool because before I ever had to spend a dime on me actually furnishing a property, buying a property, doing rental arbitrage or anything like that, I was able to put that one property on Airbnb and be a co-host on the property and have zero capital in it. And I took 18% of the gross revenue every month. So that's what led me on to getting an Airbnb, because at the time, and going back a little bit, I was like, real estate was very transactional for me. I was tired of being uncertain for 30, 45 days if a transaction is going through. I felt like I was only employed until my next sale, and I wanted to solve a problem. And Airbnb was able to help me solve that problem. It was able to produce passive income for me. It was able to, secure that uncertainty I had. I didn't feel like I was, unemployed to my next sale. I didn't have to chase down, Zillow leads anymore. Like these are the things I literally actually about 4 or 5 months ago, I stopped buying leads altogether. I run my real estate business 100% entirely on a referral base, because what's happening now is the BNB Accelerator is complementing my real estate business. But so it was able to take care of all those things, and I knew this was like the key to me solving the problem. So after that, I really just started scaling. So I was like, okay, this is working. It's working just the way he said it does. It's working the way I've seen it. And that one property, like I said, it was my guinea pig. I got to see start to finish everything without even having to spend a dime, because I was running it as a co-host. I didn't furnish it. I was essentially, for people who don't know the co-host model, it's basically you act as a property manager. You put in your the automated systems, which I teach, and you act as a property manager, and you take a big percent of the income. Typically, a co-host fee is anywhere between 15 to 25% of the gross revenue. And it's actually significant, because these properties are doing $3, $4, $5, $6, $7,000 a month. So it's a good chunk of change once you get 5, 6, 7 of those things going, and it's again, reoccurring revenue. And what I like to tell realtors, Todd, is we're in a network, right? We have investors that come across our desk. We have properties that come across our desk. Why not take advantage of the properties you have come across your desk and analyze them? This is obviously, you contingent upon you being educated by Airbnb. Analyze them to see if they're a good Airbnb. So right. What I do right now is anything that comes across my desk, and if I see it's Airbnb worthy, I'm going to lock it up right away versus sell it out to the general public, right? I always think about, another thing I did as well is I was like, okay, how can I make money on a deal every month until it sells again? So I'm making that upfront commission every month until it sells again, or every month for my co-host fee, and then every month until it sells again. So that's another thing I was able to do. I was able to help keep in relationships. Again, this is with certain properties that have to fit certain criteria for Airbnb. So these are all things I'm able to solve for me, able to get paid every month on deals, not just one-time commission, the uncertainties that I had that I just spoke about. And I was able to fix all that stuff. And then I was able to get a piece of the revenue of that's coming through the Orlando market. Like I said, we have so much revenue that comes through here with all the tourism that come here. Again, those numbers are down right now, but still, I'm going to go on that in a second, but Airbnb is still kicking off. You'd be surprised.
It's funny you said with the we want to look at a year over year on things, and it's like if we go into 2021, we want to go back and say, okay, so what was 2018 and 2019 like? Let's just knock 2020 out of the books, as far as what your revenue was on that property. Now, if it was really good, then cool. 2021 should be even better. You know? It's funny your story, because when I started out in real estate, I was 19, and I had a buddy of mine who was from high school that was buying properties. I was intrigued by what he was doing as well. And I grew up in the business, so I knew the rental business, I knew the sales business and all that stuff. But never thought at 18 or 19 I would be out buying and flipping properties. And this is going back to the mid-90s. But we would buy, by the time I was 22, I think I had about 200, 300 units that we had under control, whether between myself or my partners. And so I was playing property manager on a lot of that. And, we were happy to make 10%, and, these rents were $350, $450, something, because we had a lot of Section 8 housing. And, when you go into saying I'm making 15% to 25% on a unit that is collecting 300 a night or 300 a week versus 300 a month. Now, going back, that far ago, plus being Section 8, you're a totally different product. But, even my other rentals that I had, I was collecting $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month. If I was paying a property manager, I'm only paying, they're making $200 a month. And you're making 15 to 25%.
Yeah.
Difference.
Yeah.
And so the cash flow game is different too.
Yep. So typically, like you said, with a long-term property management company, they're taking 10%. That's pretty much average in the industry, 10% of the rental income every month. they really capitalize on turning the unit for the customer and maybe upcharging the customer on repairs like an AC or
Right.
Something goes wrong with the property. That's really where they make their money at. The good thing about what I'm doing is actually I got more skin in the game with the owner, is because I have to have production on that property. If that property does not produce, then I'm not making money.
True.
People is if that property doesn't produce income, then that's my skin in the game, right? There's no point in me just taking on a property to make it look pretty, So that's actually the first way I scaled, was the co-host model. So I got into real estate and I did the co-host model. So again, co-host model is basically acting as a property manager, quote unquote. You're putting your automation systems in, and it's pretty much hands off. But then after that, I started. After I was being a realtor for 2 years, I was able to show the banks that I could buy a home. And my first property actually was a duplex, just right outside of downtown Orlando. And here's the beautiful thing about it is a lot of people are talking about, oh, regulations this, regulations that. Orlando has some strict regulations, but I always tell people there are still stipulations where you can still do it. So for instance, that duplex that I bought, I could have easily passed that up and kept it moving, got discouraged because city of Orlando only lets you do 50% of the Airbnb, or 50% of the property as Airbnb. Well, I didn't. I still bought that duplex. I rehabbed the duplex. I put one half on Airbnb and the other side I lived on. That half that I put on Airbnb is doing $2,500 to $3,500 a month, completely covers the mortgage. The other half I live on, I rent a bedroom out on that side, and I'm cash flowing about $1,000 a month and living for free on that property. Now, I always like to tell people, think about it. If you have a mother-in-law suite, you can get started. If you have a bedroom in your house, you can get started. If you have a half a duplex, you can get started. It necessarily doesn't have to be a whole entire house.
Right.
So I started buying properties now, right? And every year I usually pick up at least one property that I buy personally. One model I like to live on is, one, realtors, we get paid to buy properties. Why not pick up a property? So right. I'm a big believer in buying a property just to create a portfolio, an actual portfolio of assets, right? Because when I do the co-host thing, yes, it is the monthly revenue, but I like to diversify a little bit. So that's why I do the co-host, I buy properties, and then I do what is called rental arbitrage, where I rent the property from an owner. Let's say Todd is renting a property. I'll approach Todd. I have specific things I tell Todd, and I rent the property from Todd. I have a special lease addendum, and I tie up that property. Let's say he's renting it for $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month. I tie up that property, and then I put it on Airbnb, and I don't even own the asset. But I like to do a mixture of all three models. And those are the three ways to scale. It's co-hosting on Airbnb, buying the property, pretty much straightforward, purchase the property, put it on Airbnb, and then doing the rental arbitrage model. And what I do, like I said just now, is I buy at least one property a year. And what I like to look for is properties that have two incomes. My bread and butter, my perfect property that I like to look for is ones that generate two incomes, like a property with a mother-in-law suite, a property that's a duplex. And what I mean is two incomes is I like to find one that pretty much services like that debt or that rent. And then pretty much the other income is income coming in for mostly all profit, if not offsetting some other expenses, but pretty much all profit. And the properties that I pick up, all I do, like the co-host properties, are usually between $5,000 to $1,000 that I bring in every single month per property, depending on the monthly revenue. The properties that I own are $2,000 plus that I'm making on the and this is right now during COVID.
Right.
And then rental arbitrage, I'm doing it between $1,000 to $1,500 net profit after all of my expenses as well. So those are the three ways I like to scale on Airbnb. And going back to what I said before is, we're realtors. We have deals come across our desk. I had to make an example. I had one of my students call me yesterday. She's like, hey, I got an investor. This is her exact words, not kidding you. She said, I got an investor. I rented his property out twice already. The tenant is about to move out. He approached me to get a renter in there again. Can I Airbnb this and do the rental arbitrage? So she's already gotten that mindset, like, this could be potentially a good property for me to do rental arbitrage. We actually ran the numbers yesterday. She's going to be doing between $1,500 to $1,800 net profit after all expenses.
How often are you finding, sorry to interrupt, landlords that are willing to let you take over their property? I mean, you're going in as the renter, and then wanting to basically you're subleasing the property, and you're going to put it on a vacation rental, call it.
Yep.
And how often are they cool with doing that, because it seems like as a landlord, I want someone who's going to be in the long term. I don't want people around my property. Are you paying a higher rent to allow them to do that, or to get them to allow you to do that, or are they just happy with the 1 year lease and call it a day?
Yeah. So typically, a long-term landlord it worries is going to be two things. You're going to hear probably two general rebuttals. The first rebuttal is going to be, "Hey, are you going to pay me?" And two, "Is my property going to get destroyed?" Okay.
Right.
So first of all, what I always tell them, and here, and it's a lot easier for me, and I built myself up to this. I can show my portfolio that I have of Airbnbs and how I'm
Right.
doing it for other people. So me convincing somebody to work with me is not actually too hard. But that's going to be pretty much their two rebuttals that they're going to give you. And when I answer to those rebuttals is, one, I get paid after a check-in, 24 hours after a guest checks in, right away. I don't have to wait till the first of every month, just like you do, right? So I get paid every time a guest checks in, 24 hours when they check in. And then as far as if a property gets destroyed, I have a separate rental insurance policy that I put on the property. It usually costs me about 120 to 150 a month per property, depending.
Okay.
Airbnb and VRBO, because I use VRBO as well, they actually put on what it's called a $1 million host guarantee on the property. So every time a guest checks in and that guest is present at the property, they will insure anything that happens to the property. They will cover anything that happens to the property. And I always like to tell the landlords, here's the beautiful thing. You might get a tenant in there who has a 700 credit score, right? But you have no reviews on past reviews, and they might give you some references that could be a friend, but you have no past reviews on how they really have treated properties. Because that 700 credit score and that person making $80,000 a year could be somebody who wants to sneak an animal in on you. Could be somebody who has a infestation that they're bringing from another house. I always tell landlords, it's inevitable. If you're going to do long-term renting, it is inevitable. At some point, you'll have to do an eviction. At some point, you're going to get your property destroyed. It's going to eat up all your profits. These are things that will happen no matter what you do at some point if you're doing long-term rentals. I don't care. It might not happen today, and you might have done 3-4 tenants already, and they've been perfect. But at some point, you're going to deal with somebody who's a pain in the butt. What I like about short-term renting, and I've actually always done short-term renting. I've never gone the long-term route, but I don't have to worry about evictions. I don't have to worry about wear and tear. Why don't I have to worry about wear and tear? Because we're in and out of the property every 3-4 days because we're having turnovers, right? People are coming, staying 3-4 days, and then checking out. And then the beautiful thing, again, like I said, going back, if they damage anything, I can now do a resolution with Airbnb or VRBO, and they'll pay me out, right, for anything that happens. And another thing is the people who are staying at my properties, if you want to get really picky, is you can go only allow people to stay at your properties if they have reviews, right? Good reviews, because everybody's reviewed, right? Everything's based on reviews these days. And you can see how many reviews they had when they joined Airbnb. They have a whole portfolio you can look at. And if you really want to screen the guests before they come in. And going back on your question, depending on the property for the landlords who I do subletting with, if the numbers are very attractive and I can't get them to budge, and it's kind of going back and forth in negotiations, I'll say, hey, listen, how about I give you an extra $100 to $200, right? I might start at $100 a month. Okay, you're asking 15, I'll give you 1,600, right? Okay, you're asking, then okay, you know what, I'll give you 17. But when I'm approaching these landlords, if I'm approaching them with the rental arbitrage, you'd be surprised, Todd. Like I said, it's people who are coming through my desk. I'm not really out searching for them. I have realtors who call me up now because I've created a niche in the Orlando market. When somebody thinks about Airbnb, I can guarantee they're like, oh, Javier.
Yeah.
I get calls all the time. I'm telling you, Todd. I get calls all the time. But hey, man, how do you do this? How do I create this? How do I do this on Airbnb? Will this be a good property? I get it. It's all the time. But I have realtors come across my desk with these properties, or I have landlords that I previously have rented from come across the properties with me. So the properties are coming to me. So it's not like I'm out there, I'm not door knocking, I'm not cold calling. It's stuff that are coming across my desk. And that's why I teach realtors, and my niche is working with realtors, because it's that much easier for a realtor to get into this. I always tell the realtor to buy the property because you have more control, right? Buy the property, you have more control. You're creating an asset for yourself. You're going to capitalize on appreciation. You have tax benefits, so I like to go down. I love buying properties. Like I love it. I love it. I love buying properties, and I'm gonna continue to buy a property. Like I said, my goal is, and I've been doing this for the past few years, is to buy at least one property every single year, one asset every single year that I purchase, because I get paid to buy a property. Why not? You know, I got a deal right now, Todd. I got a deal right now. I'm closing on this month. It's a 4-3. It's got a 3-2, and it's got a 1-1 mother-in-law suite.
Okay.
I'm getting that seller to pay me a 3% commission, and I'm getting them to pay me 3% of closing costs. The property is ready to go, fully rehabbed, and I'm gonna put it on Airbnb. I mean, I think I'm paying $9,000 out of my pocket to buy this property.
Jeez, and that, you can't beat that, when you're doing that stuff. So like you find a property. Well, actually, let me go back. So getting into real estate, you walk into the business, it's going to cost you, the licensing plus, MLS fees, all that other good stuff. But you walk in, sign up with a brokerage, and you're like, okay, now what do I do? I don't have a job. I don't have a check every week or anything else along that line. Yeah. And the key to anything is cash flow. And if you are doing the rental arbitrage, that's a cash flow game, which is great. Buying the property is cash flow plus long-term wealth because the property is being paid off.
Yep. And you get tax benefits.
Oh yeah, and obviously the beauty of that as well. So it's like if you want to one up the wealth game, take your additional money. If you're making an extra $1,000 a month on the property, put it towards the mortgage, get your properties paid off faster. If you don't have kids, those become their college assets right now. When they are 18, you sell it. The property should be paid. Yep. That's their education right there.
Yep.
And two of my partners that just retired, their game was to buy properties, and they would pay cash for them, but they were long-term rentals, and so they're making $10,000-$20,000 a month as a retired couple just in cash flow back in from the rentals. Now think about taking those 15 properties they own and putting it in the Airbnb game.
Right.
Totally different. Yeah. You're making 30 to 40 now instead of 10 to 20. And I don't know the amount of properties they have because they've been moving assets around, but you get the idea there. And it was great when I was younger. All I did was play with the real estate game, and I lived off the cash flow that we had there. But we had a lot of assets with a lot of problems to get a little bit of cash flow.
Right.
I realized the money that I was making on that, I could go sell houses and make the same amount of money and not have to deal with the headache of 200 rentals. Here, it's like if you're making $1,500 to $2,000 a month, you get 5 of those, you're $100,000 a year. That's on the arbitrage side. And that's an awesome spread for a new agent coming in. Learn a second part of the business because there's so many facets to real estate. It's not just I'm going to go sell houses. You got to figure out. I guess you can call it the niches. The riches are in the niches. So you find the Airbnb niche, you find the first time buyer niche, you find the wholesale niche, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah,
and do that. So your 4-3 you just came across. So if I'm in the MLS today and I'm looking, what are the things that I got to look for in a property? Because my wife and I have been talking about trying to get into this and figure out how to scale it. We were looking at we would love to buy a house at the beach, and so we're not going to use it every day. So why not put it on Airbnb and flow it? But so I'm the concerns are, if I buy that or I just buy your 4-3, what do I have to look for in the city regulations, the county regulations, things along that line?
Yeah. So pretty much City of Orlando, this is pertaining to City of Orlando. Every county is going to have its different ordinance. I always tell people it's very simple to look up regulations. I mean, literally within minutes. If you guys go to verlio.com, you go to Verlio, you type in whatever market you
How do you, let's do this. How do you spell that?
Verlio, it's VROILO.
VROL.
VROILO. Verlio.com. So Verlio.com is pretty much I always like to pertain to people so they get an idea. It's pretty much the Zillow of short-term rentals.
Okay.
They basically only list short-term rentals for sale on the property, or excuse me, on their website. So what I like about it is if you go, and even if you're not looking to buy a property, you can still research the markets. What they do is they color code different markets. So for instance, if you're looking in let's say California, for instance, and you see all red, that means stop, don't do that, don't go short-term rental there. So they color code it in a format where green is you can do it there, yellow is regulations are maybe you can do it, or you can do a certain % of the house, and then red is basically stop, don't do it there. But the cool thing about their website is is when you click on a property, there under the property it says zone. You click on the zone, it literally pulls up the county or city's information. It's got the county or city's zoning email. It's got their number. You can literally call them 1 second and verify whether you can do short-term rental or not. But so, for instance, this goes back to my original conversation. The property, the property that I originally bought had the regulation you can only do 50%, and the other half you can do 50% Airbnb. So that property, and that's only, by the way, that's only for 31-day bookings. So what I usually do is one half, like for instance, this new property I'm buying, I am putting it on one half on Airbnb, and then the other half I have some executive housing people I'm going to put it on for, like furnish finders. So I don't know if you ever heard of furnish finders. So I like to get creative. I don't like to shut down and say, oh, well, they can't do it here, So one half I'll put on furnish finders and do like three month leases with nurses and stuff like that. And then the other half I put on Airbnb, and that's just for that particular property. But I have some that you do the whole entire. I do the whole entire property. So what I do is I usually go to Verlio to verify, click on the zone, and I have the video of this, by the way. I can share it with you, how I research the market. And then what I do is I make a call to that local county or city. I'll make an example. I had a student that just got one going. You might know him. His name is Chase. He got one going in New Smyrna. Beautiful home, right on the beach, literally right on the beach. And the regulations were allowing it at the time. And then when he got it going, I guess they just did a switch, right? So they were allowing it. There was no problems, and they just did a switch. And then he got a letter. So I think he's going to go 30, as long as he's doing 31 plus days rentals, they're okay with it. But anything within that 31 days, they're not okay with it. So I'm not sure how he's dealing with that. But,
that was our concern buying up there, because we're like, it might be, we want to use it on the weekends or when we can. And there might be 31 days we're not going to go up there. But I don't want to be restricted. But like, okay, well, he's got it for the month. Now we can't use it. So that's kind of like, do I even want to bother? But if I can get a good amount, like obviously most of the time we're renting up there January, February, March for the Canadians coming down or the Northerners coming down here. And we're not usually going to the beach at that time because it's too cold for us Floridians.
Right.
But and I've got friends who have condos that rent out, and they're that 3 months of rent will pay for their entire year of mortgage and or HOA fees or whatever they have going on.
I always say, well, here's the good thing about that. That's going to, Airbnb in that instant, even if the regulations are tight in that area, it's going to serve the purpose for you, right? Because you're abiding by the rules. It's still paying for the condo. You still can enjoy it, right? I always tell people, what is your goal with the property? What is your, how much money do you have financially? Because a lot of people come to me, approach me, and I don't know what their bank account looks like. I rely on you guys to be able to make that decision. Say, okay, I have $1,000 in my bank account, or I have $10,000 in my bank account. Right? You have to be able to say, okay, I can buy a property. I need to do rental arbitrage to first get started, or I need to do co-host to get started. But for instance, for someone like you or someone like me, the property I bought a few years ago, that duplex, I'm able to put it on, and it's still paying for itself, right? And I'm still cash flowing and living free on it. Same thing with the condo you're about to buy. You're about to enjoy it with your family. You're about to pay for the mortgage, and you're still going to abide by. Because I want to say the regulations. I think Daytona, I think in certain parts of Daytona, I think they're a little strict. I want to say, but it's as simple as before anybody breaks regulations or furnishes a property or goes and buys a property, double check the regulations. I don't want people to have headaches and get letters to their property 1 month after they started, or have code enforcement up your butt. Because I can tell you right now, the fines can be hefty. They are not playing around. And unfortunately, it's, to me, it's a little silly because almost 5-6 years ago when I started Airbnb, man, everybody was doing it. I didn't hear any issues, no problem. But now it's like, the regulations are getting a little more tighter, but there's still tons of areas where they're short-term rental friendly. Tons of areas where it's short-term rental friendly. So, don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to look at the markets that are short-term rental friendly. I'm actually looking down south right now. One of my other markets that I'm looking to branch into, I got a student down there. He's also a realtor. I think he's 21 years old. He's at $178,000 in revenue this year. He's got He's got 6 properties. I actually interviewed him on my. He's killing it. He's generating that amount with 6 properties. They're all luxury properties, and he you know, the regulations down there are they allow it in the Broward County area, and that's an area I'm looking into. And here's the beautiful thing about it is I'm okay with doing this 3 hours away because I'm going to automate it, right?
Right.
And we can go on automation in just a second if you like, but I'm going to automate it, and I don't have to worry about, you know, being there every 2 seconds, right? I know how to pick cleaners. I know how to, you know, I've done this for a while. And after you do your first property, you can do it close to you. That way you kind of feel comfortable, see how the business is, you know, run, and then you can do, you know, an hour or 2 hours away or whatever that the case is. But the first thing is you know, get over that limited belief, that mindset people have, like, oh man, the regulations here. Like, just double check. It's very simple. You know,
Right.
people make it complicated, or double. You know, here's the thing. I notice a lot of people, they don't ask questions. A lot of people call City of Orlando, hey, do you allow short-term rental? Well, we do have a stipulation that they only allow 50%, and then people shut down, right? Will that 50%, you know, be beneficial for you on a property that you're doing? It was for me. It has been for the properties I've been doing. I don't mind doing the 50%. And the beautiful thing about that is for people who don't know this, here's another loophole. As long as they're going to tell you it has to be a resident, you have to be hosting the guests there if you only do 50%.
Right.
Well, if you are, let's say you do have one portion of a duplex long-term rented, you can actually get them to be the host, like, meaning like they're going to be the ones who are there hosting the guests supposedly.
So you're giving them a cut or a part, like kind of bringing them into the business a little bit, or how are you convincing them to be the host?
No. So all they have to do, so basically what the city wants to see is a piece of mail that they live at the property. Let's use a duplex for instance. They want to see a piece of mail and their ID that they live at the property, and then they'll write the permit form.
Okay.
Right. So I just talk to my guests, and a lot of times it depends how the guest is. I mean, you might say, hey, I'll throw you $50 a month to do this, or I'll give you $50 off your rent. Or they might just do it for free. Honestly, I've gotten everybody to do it for free. No one's had a problem because their ID and they're getting mail to the property already. I say, hey, would you mind doing this for me, right? And I've had no problem. But worst case scenario, I'll give them a $50 or $100, right? Yeah. Same thing going back to that landlord. Can I spice up the deal a little bit for them, right, to make this attractive for them? But going back, there's still tons of markets that allow short-term rental. I had Lindsay Seabury, I think that's her last name. She just bought one in South Carolina. She just bought one for, I want to say, $130, 1-1 in South Carolina. She's doing, I think, like $200 a night on this property. Jeez. You can talk to her. So there's tons of markets that allow it, but you can still buy it, no problem, right? So just got to think, how can what markets allow it? So Verlio.com is a good way to, and again, I have a video example. Verlio.com is a good source to track properties and also look at regulations. And then you can verify. I always say verify, right? Because these are third-party sites. I would say verify by calling the local city or county that you're going to do this in. That way, you're not spinning your wheels for nothing.
Yeah, your website right there. When I was starting to look about a year or two ago, because I mean, we've known each other for a while, and I was kind of intrigued by the Airbnb, and it's like, let me, you know, vacation home, call it. I want to get something where I know I can rent it. And, you know, we have that's why you've got to be very careful too, because I see, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if they've got them in the area, then they're going to be okay. Yet we'll have people in our own HOA community will have bedrooms listed or houses listed. I'm like, they can't do that. And I'm talking to some of the neighbors, like, they found a loophole around it. I'm like, the HOA docs say 7 months minimum, 12 months minimum. The HOA is too afraid to sue them. Yet they're gonna put a fine against me instantly because I have some dead grass in my yard. But they won't get to the guy who's got, you know, tenants coming in the house every week.
Yeah.
So
my bread and butter. Here's going back on my bread and butter for a perfect property is I like to find areas that allow it, and then on top of that, I don't like buying HOAs, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't either. That's the biggest thing.
I hate HOAs. I hate them personally.
Because they're one more level you have to go above the city and the county.
Yep. I have a property in Kissimmee right now off of 192. It's in Legacy Dunes. This is a property I sold to an investor. I manage it. We're doing about 70% to 75% occupancy rate right now. It's a condo doing about $2,500 a month right now during COVID.
Right.
Business has picked up tremendously over the last month.
Right.
in the Kissimmee area. Here's the thing with those Kissimmee properties. They were only this is why they got hit so hard over there. They were only catering to Disney folks. So that was basically the only thing in the area. So I always tell people, look at your location. What is going to draw people to that area? Are you by a beach? Are you by hospitals? Are you by a theme park? What's going to draw people to that area to keep you busy? So right now, I'm getting a lot of people going on staycations. A lot of people are starting to open do their wedding venues, and they need a place to stay for their bachelor part or their bachelorettes or bridesmaids to get together. Stuff like that. So think about location. I always say, everybody always hears location, location, location with real estate. Well, same thing with Airbnb. You want to make sure you're in an area where you're not like just Kissimmee folks, where they were only catering to Disney. So what happened was when the market went down, they got hit hard because they were only counting on Disney. Try to find something that's more centrally located, and you can get business in various different areas.
What so if you're like, so that's what I want to ask you about the Disney market. I know I could go pretty much anywhere in Kissimmee or that area and buy something that's going to be short-term rental, because pretty much every community out there was developed for that
pretty much.
That's a little whatchamacallit, it's a little niche out there, but you have a lot of competition.
Yeah.
So when you come into the Orlando market, that's what I was going to ask you too, is like, how do you determine what are the best ones? Because I'm not going to have something up in Longwood that could be Airbnb. Yet there's a lot of Airbnbs up here that seem to be successful.
Yeah, because you have Wekiva over there. That's why.
Well, yeah, for us, Wekiva is not going to do an Airbnb, and I wouldn't do. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't do that to my neighbors. But if we had one, I would be all over trying to get them down, because I don't want that in my neighborhood. Yet we're in an HOA now. If you go into other pockets, let's say we're looking at the suburbs, what am I trying to concentrate on then in the suburbs around? Do I want them in county, or do I want them in city?
Yeah. I would focus on county, no HOA. If you're going to find a 2-income property, like I just said, that produces 2 incomes, meaning like a property that has a mother-in-law suite or a property that's a duplex. Duplexes are very hard to come by, very, very hard.
Where you own both sides, trust me, I know.
Yeah, so they're very hard to come by. So I would focus more on something that has, a mother-in-law suite. But even if you don't, you can now go back to the traditional 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool home. Pool homes all day get a premium on Airbnb because it's Florida. People want to swim. So I would say ideally look for, because people are probably like, oh man, none of those options are really available. We just said, well, you can go in and look for a 3. I would say the sweet spot is a 3 to 4 bedroom pool home that's in again, centrally located area, with no HOA, because the HOA is I'm telling you, HOA gives you a lot of issues, with it.
Oh, I know. So
well,
you start,
they have their stipulations. I get it. It's to keep the neighborhood uniform. They don't want people to put an RV in their front yard. They don't want the next door neighbor to paint their house purple. So there's a purpose for an HOA. So I completely get it. So that's why I always tell people.
Yeah. Well, and it's, when I used to live on Lake Brantley, we had no HOA neighborhood, or was voluntary because you'd get a boat ramp key. But I'd had my boat trailer in the front yard. I had a 16-foot trailer in the front yard, or to the side. My neighbor had his motorhome sitting there. The guy across the street had his motorhome, and we called this one house Tent City because he had those pop-up tents all over his front yard. They call it porch. And the homes ran from 100,000 to 2 million. And so, is what it is. But that's what the community was. We go 1 mile over, we're in the HOA. I get yelled at because my garbage can's out front.
Yeah.
So they are all different. And they pick on people differently than other areas. Like my neighbor to the left of me, she's got her yard. She hasn't lived in her house in 8 years. It's all weeds. Yet they won't do anything about it. And you get yelled at because you got your garbage can in the front yard. It's like, come on, let's talk about the problem, not what we have going on.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask a couple of things. It's it's enticing because you just started your Facebook group. 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And I had to break away from the family. We were up on vacation, and I'm like, "You guys are going to the mall? Cool. All right, I'm going to stay back." And I watched your whole thing that you had going on.
Did you watch my value video, my 45-minute value video?
Yes. And you, dude, I was intrigued. I'm like, I'm really proud of you because you actually took the time, created a course, and showing people how to do this versus, hey, Javier, let's get together for lunch. Let's go through things. Show me what to do. Coach me. Now you've actually put a program together. And I think it's really cool because that's like, you've made it to the next level when you actually have a product and your flow of the funnel of how click here, you want this or this, then you go to the next. So it was
right.
That was really
It's
cool.
a funnel. Right.
I learned a lot, and I started taking your website. You posted on there. What's the one that gives you the quotes for the rents? AirDNA or something.
AirDNA.co.
Yeah. So I started playing with that. I'm like, oh, there's a beach house for sale. Let me see what I can get on rent for that. Let me get this one.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like thinking, okay, cool. So the house is just an example, 600,000, mortgage is 4,000 a month. I can get 2,300 a month on it, so I know it's going to cost me 1,700 a month if I want to go use it on the weekends. And so I was playing with all those numbers on my head of these properties I was looking for, because it was, you know, you have something you can use as an example versus going to Airbnb and looking at what the rents are. And you know, you see the calendar's clocked out for 3 months on this one house. It's not rented; they're just going to be using it.
Yeah.
You know, so you think the rentals are successful over there, and they do say on their site your rents should be higher. This is just an average for the area.
Yeah.
You know, for what's being given.
Yeah, I found that they're about, AirDNA is the best tool, or Mashvisor. Their competitor is basically the same thing. Mashvisor.com is another website, same thing as AirDNA. Those are basically the best platforms where people can see generalized information on an area that they want to invest into. But the good thing about those is I always tell people like this. Imagine, Todd, if you're able to get in real estate and spy on your competition, know exactly what they're doing, exactly what they're making, right? Before you even started. And that's what that is, right? Here's the thing. I teach people, look, here's all the resources on researching the market, looking at regulations, without you guys even have to invest in the market, right away, But you guys can't also, once you found a good market, you gotta pull the trigger. You gotta pull the trigger, take the leap of faith. I still see people, they get uncertain or there's fear, right? You gotta get in, you gotta try it, right? You're not gonna know until you try, I tell people, right? But you gotta, the best thing about it is I always say that's your treasure map, right? That's your treasure map without you even having to get into that market and start investing into. And what I have found is their numbers are about 15 to 20% off, but it's like the best base guideline that I can give people, and so they can see and research a market. But honestly, I like AirDNA. I use it all the time. I always research a markets with it, and that's a tool I use. That's one of the tools in my tool bags. And then Mashvisor, I also play with a lot too.
Well, it's kind of like our Zillow and Realtor.com and Trulia and Homes.com. If we're looking at stuff, we can go and, if you want to get a general idea on what you think the market is, go look at all four of those sites. If they're all the same, you're probably spot on. If they're all different, obviously go down and look at the hard numbers.
Yeah, they're all it's all competitor sites and stuff like that. So,
I mean, we're looking at rents and stuff. We're going to go pull up a couple of the rental we're going to email our property managers. Plus, look, if you want to get a quick number, Zillow has something on it. Might check it out. It'll tell you you're getting 1,500. Typically, you hope you can get more. One of the things I was intrigued with is like you are coming out with stuff during the pandemic, having success in it still, showing your actual numbers, not just saying, I make, whatever the numbers are. Yeah, I make 25 grand a month in Airbnb, but you're actually physically showing us that you, through your site, that you do that. And if you guys haven't liked the BNB Accelerator Facebook group, go in there and like it. He's dropping a lot of stuff in there as far as what he's doing. It's real life information, what his students are doing and stuff. I mean, I see your stuff all the time. You're going Facebook Live all the time, sharing stories and things, which is awesome.
Yeah. No, and here's another thing. It's like, I don't want just people to say, hey, look, Javier's having the success. Oh, look, Javier's putting his numbers up. That's why I bring a lot of my students, showing their numbers, right? What they're producing. Like I had Dallas Griffin out of Tampa. She works the Central Florida market. This lady, I interviewed her, one of my students. I interviewed her this past Monday. So every Monday, 8 p.m., guys, I go live and I bring one of my students on that has success in Airbnb in different markets. You might know, actually, you know what? Somebody you could probably relate to and ask them and pick their brain is Joe. He's an EXP. I can't remember his last name. He's out of Washington State.
Okay.
And Joe, ask him. He met me at the I want to say he met me at the EXP convention 2 years ago.
Okay.
He met me at I think it was at 10X, I believe. He met me at 10X. He was literally, I got on the Airbnb, and this is even before I started my course. Got on the Airbnb. He went back home. He applied what I was telling him. He got excited about it. He's got a lakefront place, and he sells real estate. This guy's a top producer, right? He sells, a few hundred homes units a year. and he's got one Airbnb that brings him $1,000 net a month that he's doing rental arbitrage with. It's a lakefront cabin out in that area, and he's doing about $12,000 a year in net income. I brought Dallas Griffin on last Monday. Same thing with her. She met her 2.5 years ago. She's already at 13 properties from 2 years, and she worked 25 years in a nail salon. She worked 25 years in the nail salon and hair industry, has retired. Now she's got stable income, and she's got a mixture of all models. She does rental arbitrage. She owns some of the properties. So she got a mixture of everything. So I want to show people, hey, it's not just me having success. It's other people having success too.
Right.
So people can, see like, hey, this is just a, real deal. And I can guarantee if people know people who are doing short-term rental and they're in good locations, ask your friend, call your friend up. I tell people, call your buddy up that does it. Right? If they're in a good location, I can guarantee that they're making a lot of money right now. Yeah. And this is right now with COVID going on, right?
Right, which is insane. That's like that's why I was intrigued by the success you're having, because our long-term rentals, unfortunately, the government put, hey, if they're not paying, you can't kick them out. And one of my rent, and now I'm in foreclosure because I haven't been able to make the payment because my business is down and I've got to not pay that mortgage. Come on.
Yeah.
Not everybody agrees with what was going on, politics aside, but it's like they're coming to you because they're paying and you're getting that money up front. And beautiful. What are you what's your typical vacancy on the properties? Even right now, I mean, with all this stuff.
My occupancy rates right now around 80+% every month, every single month.
When I first got in real estate, we were starting with the Disney Disney market. We were looking at that, and they would say if you're renting 36 out of 52 weeks, you're being successful.
Yeah.
So you got 24 weeks or whatever sitting there, or 20 weeks that, 18 weeks. Sorry, I got to do my math. Common Core figured it out. That you're sitting there vacant. So you're a lot better off doing the Airbnb model than you are the typical vacation model that they've got there. And the numbers are awesome because, I mean, think about you're making 3 times the rent, plus you're getting another 25 to 40% in occupancy. I mean, that's a great success right there.
Listen, right now, if you're in the right area, you're going to make money. I can guarantee it.
You mentioned not rental arbitrage, but the co-hosting. Now, how do you get involved in that?
So co-hosting basically for realtors is what I tell them to do is if you have a customer and you're selling vacation rentals, which a lot of realtors are already doing that's like their niche, to sell vacation rentals, or you have an investor, okay, and they come across your desk, right? So most of them the investor's going to say, hey, let's put this on long term. Use the realtor, right? This is you knowing how to analyze if it's an Airbnb or not.
Okay, so you're basically using somebody else. You're kind of partnering in the property, but using their money.
I'm using their money and using their asset, everything, and then basically I'm taking that property, that long-term landlord who just said, "Hey, Javier, can you put 123 Street on long-term rental for me?" Make an example. I had a student call me yesterday. She said, "Hey, I got a 3-2 pool home that I rented out for an investor twice. He wants me to rent it out again, put it on the market for rent for him. Should I put this on Airbnb?" That was exactly it. This investor, she's already knows, likes, trust. She's already got him 2 renters in the past. She sold that property to him back in the day as well. So this is what I told her. I was like, your pitch to him is not going to be that. It's not going to be a hardcore pitch, right? Because this guy knows you. You've done business with him, right? He's you're going to be surprised when you go up to him. This is somebody you know. They're like, oh, okay, cool. You can be my tenant. Oh, no problem. All right, and that's pretty. You'll see pretty much that's it. Now they might have a couple rebuttals, and I actually have a whole rebuttal sheet that your most common rebuttals you're going to hear. I always tell people it's like real estate. After you've been doing this for a while, pretty much all the rebuttals you hear are generic, right? It's all the same stuff, right? It's the same stuff down the line, but.
It's like sell the scripted package. I think you froze. You froze on us. Remove, end of stream. Javier. And I think that's a wrap, folks. There he is.
What happened?
He totally froze up. Talk about technical difficulties.
Yeah, no worries. So I always tell realtors, analyze the deals that are coming across your desk to see if they're Airbnb worthy. These deals are already coming across your desk. And here's the beautiful thing I tell realtors as well. Again, like I said, I know a price tag like a broker. You're in a network. You're in a network, right? These the landlords are coming across your desk. The investors are coming across your desk. People who want vacation rentals are coming across your desk. to buy a vacation rentals. And believe it or not, people are still buying vacation rentals. I just had a Coldwell Banker agent refer me a property out in Kissimmee that a customer is closing on. Literally, he called me up. He said, "Hey, man, you want to manage this thing?" I said, "Yeah, I'll manage it." I told him, I believe 20%. And he's like, "Man, honestly, I'm going to use it a lot of time of the year. I don't really care if it creates a whole bunch of income, but," he's like, "do your best." Right.
Yeah.
That was really the conversation, And, granted, I do have more of a reputation, but again, you build, you get there at a certain point. But
right.
Another thing is cool is we also know vendors, right? If you're going to scale and do this, you need to have a good vendor list, right?
Right.
So
That's part of it.
We're always referring electricians, plumbers, handymen to our customers. These are people you should be building relationships already with, so you can refer your customers to, right? You refer them to your customers. Well, now you can use them on your properties, right? And if you're giving these people so much business, they're going to make you a priority, right? Same thing with me. My vendors make me a priority because they know I give them a lot of business, and they know I refer them a lot. Listen, every vendor I deal with, they know that my network is so strong, being that I know other realtors, I have vacation rentals, I know a lot of vacation hosts in Orlando, and they know I refer them out all the time. So they give me deals. Not only that, they come right away. So I'm dealing with some good vendors, and we all know, some vendors can be hard to, good vendors can be hard to find.
They are, and when you find them, you want to keep them in your pocket. Not when people ask for referrals, you're like, no. These are my guys. Don't keep them to your clients, not to your realtor friends. The other realtor gets them too busy, because you're gonna. It's the successful ones that are asking for the referrals, and they're gonna end up pushing them over to their clients and making it worse.
Right.
So, well, Javier, we've gone along, and I want to appreciate your time here. And everybody, go on, check out the Airbnb page or the BNB page. For him, and Monday nights 8:00 he's going live usually.
Every
check
Monday.
out the stories that he's got there. Schedule the BNB Accelerator.com. Get a time with him. The course, I haven't paid for the course yet. I'm going to, because we're going to be diving into some more rental investments. Haven't had a rental in a long time, and we ended up buying one about a year ago and said, you know what, let's get out of long term. Sold it 9 months later. This was a funny, because they have a dog. Our dog's the best dog in the world, et cetera, et cetera. I waived the dog deposit because they were going to do some repairs around the house for me. And they move out 9 months later because I asked them to leave because we wanted to sell it. We walk in, we could smell the dog everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, new floors, that $300 deposit would not have covered the $6,000 I spent in flooring.
Nope.
And they would have been a long-term rental. I wouldn't have cared. But that it was 9 months later that we're re-renovating the property again. That's like where I think the cash flow game comes into play. Yep. It's the constant repairs of people coming in and moving out, coming in, moving out.
Yep. And that's another thing. I don't on my short-term rentals, I don't allow pets. I do not allow pets. They destroy properties. They pee everywhere. A lot of time when a pet is in a territory that they're not used to, they're trying to mark the territory, or they're trying to ride in couches because they're not used to that territory. But going back to what you said, a long-term landlord, traditional long-term landlords, they're making maybe $300 net of profit a month. I'm going to tell you that.
Think about that. You move out a year later. What am I doing? Spending that $3,000 in rental, and not rental, but in repair
you're
to get
turning
it in there. Yep. And that's what I was making on my rentals, $100 to $200 a month. And I mean, 18, 19, 20 years old, that was great. But now, you're trying to, make a living at it. Ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
You got to buy a lot of those and hope that you don't have, a hurricane come through and, you got to replace 3 roofs or something.
Yeah. And at that point, really at that point, you're just you're capitalizing on appreciation if the market.
Correct. That's it. You're playing the long-term game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, everybody, appreciate you guys coming on today, checking us out. Javier, appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. No, thank you.
Your schedule, and check us out again next Friday. Agents Who Win on Facebook, and then circle over to YouTube, subscribe there, and you will get updated as we have things going on. Appreciate your time there.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Todd.
Yeah.